On my birthday, just as I was about to cut the cake, my sister-in-law barged in and blurted out, "You really don't deserve to be in the spotlight." My husband just shrugged it off, brushing it away with a casual, "That's just her sense of humor." I kept my composure and smiled, replying, "Well then, I guess she's going to love mine too." Moments later, her expression drained of all color when she understood exactly what I had done. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband Ryan, who's 36, for the past 8 years. We've built our life together in Chicago, and for the longest time, I truly believed we had a solid marriage. Not flawless, of course. What relationship ever is? But I loved him, and I was certain he loved me too. Still, there was always this persistent shadow hanging over us. His sister Olivia, who's 2 years older than Ryan. Olivia has always moved through life like it's a spotlight made just for her. If you had something to celebrate, she had something shinier. If you bought something nice, she suddenly needed the same thing, only bigger, flashier. Anytime someone else accomplished something, Olivia was sure to belittle it or outshine it somehow. At first, I brushed it off. Some people just thrive on attention. It's irritating, sure, but nothing worth starting a war over. But as time passed, she crossed line after line. She hijacked our wedding by announcing her own engagement right in the middle of our reception. That engagement crashed and burned in 4 months. When I got promoted, we had a small dinner to celebrate. Olivia crashed that moment too, making a big announcement about maybe going back to school. Every time I tried to talk to Ryan about it, he dismissed it with a lazy chuckle and a half-hearted, "She's just being Olivia. Don't take it so seriously." But eventually, it was serious. Last month was my birthday. Nothing fancy, just a cozy dinner at our place with friends and family. Work had been hell that year, and Ryan suggested we keep things simple. I thought it was thoughtful. Honestly, I felt excited. The food, the music, the people. It was perfect. I was finally feeling a spark of joy again. Olivia had been unusually quiet all evening, and in hindsight, I should have realized something was brewing. Just as I reached for the knife to cut my birthday cake, I heard the clink of a wine glass. "Before we get to this," Olivia said as she rose from her chair, "I just have something to share." I paused, knife in hand. The room turned toward her. She smiled sweetly. "It's kind of adorable, don't you think? All of us here making such a fuss over turning 34. I mean, really?" There was an awkward ripple of laughter. Then she tilted her head and added, "But you know what's actually a milestone, creating a whole new life. So, surprise, I'm pregnant." The room exploded into gasps and congratulations. I stood there, still holding the knife, completely paralyzed. I looked at Ryan, hoping for something, anything. He just shrugged. "She's just messing around," he mumbled. And that was that. My birthday, my moment, had been wiped clean. Olivia, with one smug announcement, absorbed every bit of attention in the room. One hand rested dramatically on her stomach, and her whole expression was a masterclass in fake humility. I should have been furious, and I was, but even more than that, I smiled, because Olivia had no clue what was headed her way. 3 weeks before that night, I stumbled across something. Ryan had left his laptop open while he was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. Not really. But an email popped up, and I couldn't help but notice the subject line, "Deposit confirmed." It was from his bank. A $2,500 transfer. To Olivia. I just stared at it. Why was Ryan sending that kind of money to his sister? Something didn't feel right. So I did what any halfway logical person would do. I started digging. And what I found made my stomach lurch. Bank records. Dozens of wire transfers from Ryan to Olivia throughout the year. Thousands of dollars hitting her account like clockwork. Text messages, conversations between them that made my skin crawl. Olivia, what if she finds out? We can just tell her the baby isn't yours. Ryan, she won't. Just keep quiet. I sat frozen in front of the screen, the truth crashing over me like a tidal wave. Olivia wasn't just desperate for attention. She was entangled in an affair with my husband. And as if betrayal weren't enough, she was carrying his child. I didn't cry, not at first. I just sat there, motionless, hands trembling while my pulse pounded like a war drum in my ears. Eventually, I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out the door. I had no idea where I was headed. I just wandered. An hour passed, maybe more, before everything inside me sharpened into clarity. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to break down. I was going to make damn sure they both lived with this for the rest of their lives. So, I hired a private investigator. Within days, I had it all. Photographs, text messages, dinner receipts, hotel check-ins, a weekend getaway to Napa charged to our joint account. I compiled every piece of evidence, arranged them neatly in a folder that looked more like a corporate presentation than a declaration of war. And then I waited. I waited for the one day Olivia never failed to hijack, my birthday. She did exactly what I knew she would. Showed up in a designer dress, glowing with attention, soaking in the spotlight like it was her birthright. Standing there, basking in the admiration of others, she had no idea what was coming. I picked up my wine glass, offered her a smile, and said, "Wow, a baby? That's such wonderful news, Olivia. Even more interesting considering the father's already married." The room froze. Olivia's smile shattered. Ryan's face drained of all color. A stunned whisper cut through the silence. "What?" I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and the room detonated. Olivia gasped for air. Ryan stuttered like a broken engine. His mother swayed like she might collapse. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and the room detonated. Olivia gasped for air. Ryan stuttered like a broken engine. His mother swayed like she might collapse. I stood firm, composed, unwavering. For the first time in years, I had taken something from Olivia, and not just anything. I had taken everything. For a brief, glorious moment, time stopped. Nobody moved, no one spoke. Everyone's eyes ping-ponged between me, Ryan, and Olivia, waiting to see what would happen next. Ryan cracked first. A strange sound came out of him, something between a cough and a sob. Olivia stood frozen, her gaze flicking around the room like a hunted animal, trapped and cornered. Then chaos broke loose. "Ryan, what the hell is going on?" "Olivia, she's lying, right? This is insane." I didn't blink. I took another sip of wine, pulled out the folder, and dropped it onto the table like I was laying down the ace of spades. "If I'm making this up, then you won't mind everyone having a look." A couple of guests leaned in, curiosity overpowering manners. My best friend Rachel grabbed the folder, flipped it open, and gasped, "Oh my God." Ryan lunged, trying to snatch it, but Rachel snapped it back with fire in her eyes. "Sit down." She spat, and to my eternal satisfaction, Ryan obeyed. Then she began to read aloud. First, the hotel bills, then the wire transfers, then the texts. The buzz of confused chatter fell into heavy silence as realization hit. One by one, faces twisted in horror. Ryan's mom, who had been resting a hand gently on Olivia's shoulder, recoiled as though she'd been burned. "Tell me this isn't true," she whispered. Olivia opened her mouth, then closed it. Nothing came out. Ryan, that spineless coward, turned to me instead. "Why would you do this?" he snapped, as if I had broken the vows. I laughed, not out of madness, but with the cool detachment of someone who had just won the game. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. Was I supposed to smile while you kept screwing your own sister?" A collective gasp swept the room. A wine glass shattered somewhere behind me. Ryan flushed scarlet. "Keep your voice down," he hissed. Olivia finally found her voice, thin and panicked. "It's not like that," she mumbled. I raised an eyebrow. "Then what is it like, Olivia?" Her hands clenched into fists, trembling. "You don't understand," she started. "Ryan and I—" But she stopped herself. Too late. The damage was done. The room held its breath, waiting for her next move, waiting to watch her unravel. And then she ran, shoved her way through the crowd, nearly tripping over a chair in her rush to disappear. Ryan paused for the briefest moment before chasing after her. And just like that, the two of them vanished into the night. I turned back toward the stunned guests, trying to salvage the moment. "So, cake? Anyone?" A few scattered chuckles echoed around the room, unsure and strained. Rachel gave my shoulder a firm pat, trying to lighten the mood. Then, out of nowhere, Ryan's mom, Linda, the same woman who once treated her son like he could do no wrong, broke down. She crumbled into the nearest chair, burying her face in her trembling hands. "Oh my God, she kept murmuring, her voice cracking. Rachel stood awkwardly beside her, rubbing her back like she was comforting a stranger. "You want some water or, I don't know." A therapist? She offered, clearly out of her depth. Meanwhile, Richard, Ryan's usually quiet, composed father, stood slowly, grabbed his coat with eerie calm and muttered, "I'm gonna kill him." And he wasn't exaggerating. He stormed toward the door like a man possessed. Linda bolted upright. "Richard, stop," she shouted, but he didn't. Neither did I. I followed him out, catching up just in time to see Ryan and Olivia mid-argument in the driveway. And let me tell you, the mask Olivia had been wearing, completely gone. "You complete idiot," she shrieked, her voice sharp and venomous. How the hell did she find out? Ryan raked both hands through his hair, pacing like a lunatic. "I don't know, okay? She must have been digging around." That was the final straw. "Oh, you think I was snooping?" I snapped, stepping right into their line of fire. "You left your goddamn laptop open, genius." They both spun around to face me. Ryan's face drained of color. Olivia's eyes flared with rage. And Richard? He didn't bother with words. He just clocked Ryan square in the face. Down he went. Blood everywhere. Nose shattered, maybe a concussion. Honestly, it was kind of poetic. After that, everything exploded. Olivia screamed like she was auditioning for a horror film. Ryan was writhing on the ground, groaning and holding his face. It must have been the neighbors who called it in, because within 10 minutes, 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. One of the officers stepped out and looked around. "What's going on here?" Ryan, still on the pavement, croaked, "My dad hit me." Richard shrugged like he'd just spilled a drink. "Sure did." The cop blinked in disbelief. Why?" I stepped forward, the truth burning in my throat, because my husband was having sex with his own sister. The look on the officer's face, worth every ounce of pain I'd been carrying. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, like even he couldn't process what he was hearing. Meanwhile, Olivia burst into tears, loud, performative, totally fake. "It's not what it looks like," she wailed. One of the officers rubbed his forehead like he regretted becoming a cop. "Ma'am, I don't even know what the hell this looks like." Ryan, drenched in blood and misery, rasped, Just get me out of here." The cops looked between him and Richard and sighed. "Sir, we're gonna have to take you in for assault." Richard didn't fight it. He nodded once like it was no big deal. But before they could cuff him, Linda came running outside, completely hysterical. "Please don't arrest him, please," she sobbed, barely able to stand. Rachel had to wrap an arm around her to keep her upright. One of the cops sighed, clearly done with all of us. "Look, if he's not pressing charges, we can let it go." Ryan, still sprawled on the ground, muttered, "I just want to go home." The officer turned to Richard. "You okay with that?" Richard scoffed. "Already wasted a punch on this piece of garbage, not wasting anything else." And that was that. The cops drove off. Ryan and Olivia dragged themselves into Ryan's car and disappeared into the dark. And me? I went back inside, picked up the cake knife, and sliced myself the biggest damn piece I could. Because the best part? This wasn't over. Not even close. The night should have ended there. I should have gone to bed satisfied, knowing I had burned their little secret to the ground. But as I sat there, eating my cake while the party fizzled out, I had this nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. Something felt undeniably off. Ryan and Olivia had slipped away far too smoothly. No final argument, no desperate plea to twist the truth in their favor, no frantic attempt at justification, just a clean exit. That alone raised every red flag in my mind. Ryan wasn't the type to bow out without a fight. He always needed the upper hand, the last jab, the final word that left a sting. And Olivia? Olivia thrived on drama. She'd perfected the role of the victim. Normally, she'd have turned that departure into a full-blown performance. But instead, she had silently slid into Ryan's car and vanished. No spectacle, no tantrum, which meant one thing: they weren't finished. And I was right. The next morning, I woke to over 50 missed calls and a flood of unread texts. At first, I assumed it was residual chaos from the party. Maybe Ryan's relatives had more to vent about, or maybe one of my friends wanted to debrief over a latte. But then I saw the name lighting up my screen, my boss, and the message beneath it made the air leave my lungs. "Call me ASAP. We need to talk." I shot upright in bed, heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't even think. I hit call. "Hey, what's going on?" His voice was like ice. "We received an email this morning. Actually, several. About you." My stomach dropped like a stone. What kind of emails? There was a package sent to HR anonymous. It included screenshots, photos, accusations. A pause. It's serious. Panic flooded my chest. Accusations? Of what? Sexual harassment, embezzlement, workplace misconduct, and there's even a so-called witness statement from someone claiming to be a former colleague. I almost dropped the phone. What? That's insane. I know, he said with a heavy sigh. But you know how corporate is. We can't ignore something like this. Effective immediately, you're on administrative leave. We'll investigate. My vision blurred. My hands were trembling so badly I had to grip the phone with both. Who would do something like this? Then it hit me. Olivia. Of course it was her. Manipulative, vindictive, calculated. I clenched my jaw until my teeth ached. This wasn't retaliation. It was all-out war. The rest of the day, I launched into damage control mode. I called HR, then my lawyer. I reached out to colleagues, discreetly, to see if anyone had heard whispers. The testimony? Completely fabricated. The coworker it was supposedly from had never written it. The embezzlement claims? Total garbage. But because the email was anonymous and procedure had to be followed, I was trapped in bureaucratic purgatory, and Olivia knew that. She didn't want to win. She wanted me to suffer. But I wasn't about to roll over. If she wanted war, she was going to get it. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something, instinct maybe, told me to pick up. Hello? Silence. Then a voice, soft and unsure. Is this my name? Yes, who is this? More silence. Then finally, my name is Melanie. I think we need to talk. It's about Olivia and Ryan. My whole body went still. What about them? She took a shaky breath on the other end, then said, I used to be Olivia's best friend. I know everything. That evening, I met Melanie at a small coffee shop tucked away near downtown. She looked like life had kicked her around. Late 30s, pale blonde, shadows under her eyes, and a haunted look that said she had stories to tell. And she didn't waste a second. Olivia's poison, she said plainly, and I know exactly what she did to you. Then she leaned in closer, her voice even lower. But believe me, she's done worse. I inched forward. Tell me everything. And she did. Apparently, Olivia had a long track record of wrecking people's lives without a hint of remorse. Years ago, she sabotaged a former friend by stashing drugs in the woman's car and tipping off the cops anonymously. Though the charges were eventually dropped, the damage was already done. Her friend lost her job and reputation. Then there was the time she invented a stalker and pinned it on an ex-boyfriend who dared to dump her, dragging his name through the mud. She even went as far as trying to extort her own mother for money. But the most shocking part? Olivia had pulled this exact same stunt before. What do you mean? I asked, my skin prickling with unease. Melanie hesitated, then pulled out her phone and scrolled through a thread of old texts. 3 years ago, she said, Olivia had an affair with another married guy. When his wife found out and tried to expose her, Olivia hit back by inventing fake accusations, exactly like she's doing to you now. My stomach twisted. What happened to the wife? I asked. Melanie exhaled slowly. She lost it all, her job, her name, everything. She ended up leaving the state. Olivia came out on top. I felt like I was going to throw up. Why are you telling me this? I managed to say. Melanie locked eyes with me. Because she finally came after me too, and I want to watch her burn. By the time I got home, my thoughts were a wildfire. This wasn't just about me anymore. Olivia was a career manipulator, the kind of person who'd keep ruining lives unless someone stopped her. So I did what any sane person would in a moment like that. I called the private investigator again. I want you to dig up everything on Olivia, I told him. Every scheme, every lie, every person she's ever hurt. He gave a short laugh. You got it. Then I made another call to Richard, Ryan's father, the same man who once punched his own son. Richard, I said, my voice steady and cold, how would you like to help me destroy Olivia and Ryan? There was a pause. Then came the most gratifying words I'd ever heard. Tell me what to do. After that call, things moved fast. The PI wasted no time. Within a few days, he had it all: proof of Olivia's past cons, a list of people she'd screwed over, and even court documents I hadn't known existed. Turns out, she'd been sued twice for defamation. She settled out of court both times, but the pattern was obvious. Meanwhile, Melanie brought me something even better. She got in touch with Olivia's old best friend, the one who got framed with the drugs, and somehow convinced her to talk. When I heard everything, I knew exactly what needed to be done. It was time to put an end to all of it. I planned it down to the smallest detail. Richard pulled a few strings and got Linda, Ryan, and Olivia's mom to host what we called a family intervention at their house. We pitched it as a way to clear the air and try to work things out. Olivia and Ryan agreed to come, clueless about what was really waiting for them. The night of the showdown, you could cut the tension with a knife. Ryan and Olivia strolled in, pretending everything was fine. Olivia wore her usual smug grin, like she still thought she could charm her way out of anything. She had no clue she was walking into her own takedown. Richard sat at the head of the dining table, shoulders tight with rage. Linda looked completely drained, her eyes puffy and red. Rachel and Melanie flanked me, ready to stand their ground. And across from us, Olivia and Ryan. The storm was seconds from breaking. Richard cleared his throat. "We need to talk about what you two have done." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Dad, seriously? This is ridiculous." Olivia folded her arms. "Are we really doing this? What do you people want from me?" I leaned forward. "We deserve the truth," someone demanded. Olivia rolled her eyes, letting out a short laugh. "Please, you already know the truth. Ryan and I are together now. You need to let it go." I leaned back in my chair and offered her a slow, knowing smile. "Oh, Olivia," I said calmly. "I wasn't referring to that truth." Then I reached into my bag, pulled out a thick folder, and laid it gently on the table. "This," I continued, flipping through page after page, "is evidence. Cold, hard proof that you've been doing this for years, setting people up, tearing apart lives, smearing reputations until there was nothing left to salvage. And now," I said, my voice steady, "everyone here is going to find out exactly who you are." I watched as Olivia's confident facade faltered for the first time. Her lips parted. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her tone high and shaky. "This is nonsense." I turned to Melanie, who had been quiet until now. "Tell them," I said. Melanie inhaled deeply, then stared directly at Olivia. "You framed me, Olivia. You hid drugs in my car because I started seeing your ex and you couldn't handle it. You wanted to destroy me." A sharp gasp escaped from Linda, while Olivia went completely still. Melanie didn't stop. "And Leah, you accused her of workplace harassment out of nowhere. She lost her job, her reputation, everything, because of you." Olivia's hands trembled. "That's a lie," she shrieked. I didn't flinch. I reached for the final piece of the puzzle and slammed it onto the table. "Then maybe you'd like to explain this," I said. "It was a police report, one from years ago, a file she clearly hoped no one would ever uncover. When she was 18, she had falsely accused a teacher of misconduct because he'd given her a grade she didn't like." Richard stood so fast his chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "You did what?" he barked. Olivia's face lost every ounce of color. That's not what happened," she stammered, turning toward Ryan. "Ryan, come on, say something." Ryan just stood there, staring at the documents, then slowly shifted his gaze to Olivia. For the first time, I saw it, real fear in his eyes. This was you?" he said quietly, disbelief thick in his voice. Olivia broke. "So what if it was?" she shouted. "So what? I did what I had to do. I survived. They had it coming." And just like that, she'd exposed herself, raw and unfiltered. Ryan recoiled as if she'd struck him. His face was ashen. "Oh my God," he whispered. "I believed you. He ran both hands through his hair, his whole body shaking. "I threw away everything for you." Panic flared in Olivia's eyes. "Ryan, no, don't say that. You love me. We were in this together." Ryan stepped back like she was toxic. "No," he said, voice cracking. "You used me, just like you used everyone else. I sacrificed my marriage for you." Olivia lunged toward him, gripping his arms. "Please, Ryan, please don't leave me." But Ryan pulled away as though her touch burned. "Don't come near me again," he whispered coldly. Then he turned to me. "I'm so sorry," he said. "It should have felt like justice. It didn't." "You don't get to be sorry," I told him. His shoulders slumped as he looked down at the floor, defeated. "I have nothing left," he murmured, and I didn't feel bad. Not one bit. The fallout was swift and brutal. Ryan's family disowned both of them. Richard kicked Ryan out, and Linda refused to speak to either of them ever again. Olivia lost everything. The people she had wronged started coming forward, filing real lawsuits against her. She was officially a pariah. Ryan disappeared. Last I heard, he was living in a cheap motel, unemployed, friendless, drowning in regret. I got my job back. HR realized the accusations against me were fake and offered me a promotion as an apology. And me, I moved on. I took a solo trip to Italy. I reconnected with friends I had lost. And most importantly, I never looked back.